It is 1 hour 30 Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Political leaders in Iraq have again rejected the nomination of Prime Minister Ibrahim al-Jafari to remain Prime Minister in a new government. The decision came after Iraq's Shiite alliance established a committee Sunday to see if other groups would support Mr. al-Jafari. The Shiites are the largest group in parliament, but they need the support of Sunni Arab and Kurdish leaders to form a government. Sunni Arab and Kurds say Mr. al-Jafari is not doing enough to stop violence in Iraq. President Bush says he wants to settle the Iran nuclear crisis through diplomacy. President Bush spoke in Washington. He said recent news reports of plans for air attacks against Iran are not truthful. But he said he has not rejected possible military action either. In Iran, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said during a speech Monday that his country will never stop its nuclear activities. The United States accuses Iran of using its nuclear program to make nuclear weapons. Iran says its nuclear power is for peaceful purposes only. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered across the United States in support of more rights for illegal immigrants. Demonstration organizers say marches took place in more than 100 cities Monday. One of the first demonstrations took place in the southern city of Atlanta, Georgia. Thousands have also gathered in New York City and Washington, D.C. Monday's demonstrations are the most recent in a series of protests against a House of Representatives bill that would make illegal immigrants criminals. The United States has urged the King of Nepal to bring back democracy immediately and begin talks with all political parties. The State Department said that protests, deaths, and arrests will not bring security to Nepal. Police in Nepal used tear gas and sticks to end anti-government demonstrations Monday. Thousands of people had gathered in Kathmandu and other cities for a third day. Police are under orders to shoot violators of a daytime curfew. At least 3 people have been killed in clashes between protesters and police. Nearly 800 people have been put in prison since the protests began last week. Early results from Sunday's presidential election in Peru show that a second election may be needed. By Monday, more than 75% of the votes were counted. Results show that former Army Commander Ollanta Humala was in the lead with 30% of the vote. His opponents, former lawmaker Lourdes Flores and former President Alan Garcia, both had about 25% of the vote. By law, a second election must be held if neither of the top 2 candidates receives 50% of the vote. The United States has threatened to place restrictions on Venezuela's ambassador in Washington, D.C., if threatening actions continue against a top American diplomat in Venezuela. The State Department issued the warning Monday. Last Friday, supporters of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez threw food and rocks at the car of the American ambassador after he was forced to leave an aid event in Caracas. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Indian officials say a fire has killed at least 50 people at a crowded market in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. At least 100 others were injured. The fire happened in the town of Meerut. Officials are investigating the incident. Early reports said an electrical problem caused the fire. Police in Ghana say about 120 people are missing and feared dead after their boat sank on Saturday in Lake Volta. About 30 people have been rescued. The search effort continues. Police say there were too many people on the boat. They say the boat hit something under the water before it sank. Officials in Kenya say at least 14 people were killed when a military plane crashed near the northeastern town of Marsabit. 6 members of parliament were among those killed in the crash. Reports say 4 others survived the crash. The officials were traveling to Marsabit to settle a dispute between local tribes. The Rwandan government has formed a committee to investigate France's possible involvement in genocide in Rwanda 12 years ago. Hutu extremists killed hundreds of thousands of minority Tutsis and moderate Hutus in 1994. Rwandan officials say the committee will examine reports that France trained and armed people responsible for the killings. France is also accused of helping genocide leaders flee Rwanda. France has denied any involvement. The United Nations Security Council has approved the transport of 800 UN troops from Burundi to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The peacekeepers will leave for the DRC in May to provide extra security for upcoming elections. The UN currently has 17,000 troops in the country. Election officials in Italy say results from parliamentary elections are not yet clear. 90% of the votes have been counted. Early results show the ruling party of Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi with a small lead in the Senate. However, public opinion studies of voters as they left voting centers show former Prime Minister Romano Prodi in the lead. The United States Space Agency, NASA, says it plans to crash a spacecraft into the moon in search of water. Officials said Monday that the crash will be visible from Earth. They are hoping the crash will send up materials from the moon, possibly including ice made of water. The launch is scheduled for 2008. Briefly, here again is the major news. Political leaders in Iraq have again rejected the nomination of Prime Minister al-Jafari to remain Prime Minister in a new government. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered across the United States in support of more rights for illegal immigrants. And early results from Sunday's presidential election in Peru show that a second election may be needed. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.